Hey community, as you're looking through the website, you're going to find a button that says Store, Cannabis Community Store. And there you're going to find all the products from our sponsors like the Skunk Box, Cushly Odor Eliminator, Anonymous Bags, compliant exit bags for dispensaries. And beyond the virtual store, we have now acquired a deal with 4 Strains Pipe Shop and Smoking Lounge. Go down and talk to Mike at 1548 West Alameda here in Denver, Colorado. So anything you see on the website, if you want to touch it physically in person before you buy it, check it out at 4 Strains Pipe Shop, 1548 West Alameda. Welcome back to the Cannabis Community Project.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project.
Open up, Colorado. It's 420. Time to grind and burn.
This is not your son's stoner show.
Welcome to the Cannabis Community Project. This is Brainstorm. Once again, bring you your weekly podcast from the CCP studios high up in Denver, Colorado. Here exploring the business side of this newly emerging economy, focusing on the business, the patient, the retailer, to the geek in the garage, creating that next innovation in cannabis. This is the first media platform to help fellow cannapreneurs just like you, while living the lifestyle. Welcome to 2015. Welcome, my friends, family, followers, and everybody else in between. Thank you so much for joining me once again for year number 2. I want to thank you all with great sincerity for joining us and allowing me to go into year number 2. This has truly been a dream realized for me. And for that, I want to give back to you by lining up some great shows this year, exploring the business side of the cannabis community. As always, not so much of an emerging economy anymore, but still emerging, and we're still going to make this a business show, but we're going to expand out a little bit this year. We're going to make sure to include all of our patient friends in the community, all of those who are working to make organizations and nonprofits help to support those in need. We're going to make sure that it's a cannabis community show. We have so much stuff lined up, but let's not forget, this is not your son's stoner show. I'm still going to be here focusing on the business side of the cannabis industry. While living the lifestyle, of course, we'll be talking about it all. We just want to highlight the patient, the user, the retailer, even the geek in the garage creating that next innovation in cannabis. That's right. The talk has been technology, startups. Here in Colorado, we are sitting on the next U.S. industrial age 2.0. We can't even use that anymore. It's really going to be 3.0. We have bypassed a generation of technology. The future is here. The day after hemp has come to town. We are the media platform here helping fellow cannapreneurs build sustainable business models within the Colorado cannabis community and nationwide and then eventually worldwide. The cannabis community has no borders. Like many, I just wanted to be involved. That's what I've heard so much from so many people this year is I just wanted to be involved somehow, some way. Part of a gargantuan industry creating the new American industry, cannabis. If you have an idea or a business, cannabis is now one more option to consider in your portfolio of career choices, investment choices. Whatever it is, you out there in the public have more ideas about what's happening in the industry than I could ever have, and that's why I want to hear from you. I want to make sure you're all part of this show. This is a community show. This is your show. So maybe you have some thoughts, perhaps a business, or just some good ideas about cannabis. I want you to contact me. You can do it via the webpage or any social media under the same name, Cannabis Community Project. Or just stand outside and yell, whistle, hoot, and holler because those making the most noise are going to get my attention. This year, I want to highlight members of the community who are truly stepping up, those who are sharing on Facebook, those who are participating in the show, creating segments, those who are out there creating events and inviting us. It's about sharing, and that's what I think people are starting to realize, what it takes to build a community. It's about being involved in each other's lives and sharing each other's lives and looking at competition against the world and ourselves rather than each other on an elimination type scale. You know, everything can be talked about in the community: news, health, legal, even art, food, and of course, growing in all things technology and innovation. We want to focus on business, not from a superficial standpoint of, how much you're growing and how much you invest and what's your marketing plan. We want to highlight those issues as part of a deeper sense of what it means to be in business, to be an entrepreneur, to be a cannapreneur. We want to know about the motivation that spurred you to wake up one day and get out of bed, stand on your own 2 feet, and declare yourself to be in business in the cannabis business. How did that come about? Where did that motivation come from? These are the stories we're getting at because it's that insight that helps people understand how to get in business. Simply telling somebody to write up a business plan and register with the state and form an LLC and get a business card and a Facebook account is almost meaningless unless you truly understand the origins of why people take action. If you're working a minimum wage job right now and you're sitting in a shitty cubicle and you're doing pretty much nothing with your life, but knowing you could be doing something different, hearing how somebody's story actually got from point A to B to C is what we want to get out there. And the tools that help people do that are going to be things like understanding how to register a business and create a marketing plan and go about building human resource infrastructure and protecting yourself legally, making sure you're investing properly with your finances and that you're taking the appropriate marketing and sales actions to grow your business so your idea in cannabis can spread out there amongst the community. There is going to be thousands of businesses, opportunities. And now that hemp production is gearing up, bringing everybody together, we're all going to get involved in this growing game. The revival of farmers, the renaissance is coming. Farmers who were old school conservatives, like everybody else, when you get desperate for money and on the verge of losing your history, your generation, your connection to your father and your grandfather through farming, now we have a crop that people are going to be able to make money off. This is going to revive the middle class. This is what's going to turn conservatives into liberals and liberals into conservatives, and chaos will ensue. But in the end, if we still follow our principles of maintaining freedom within the best interest of making society better, well, cannabis will emerge as the winner. That is our responsibility. That is our job. Imagine if there were just a handful of people in each business competing with a handful of other businesses. We're talking about a exponentially blossoming scale of thousands, if not millions of businesses. And how that translates into money, well, the numbers have yet to be invented. Google cannot Google the number. That's where we're going with this show. That's where we're going with this industry. This show is your voice. This is your chance to stand up and tell people what you do and how you do it. Meet other people and network with those who you know are like-minded in this industry. It's time we join together. My background is from sales and marketing, a little bit of teaching, and a scattering of minimum wage jobs that trickled along the path to take me to where I am today. I, like many, finally took action out of stress to make life different. It's an idea, a legitimate industry now, so we might as well get people legitimately employed in it. Are you formerly a criminal because of pot? Turn it into a cannabis career. Let this show help you understand the essence of not just growing a garden and trimming bud, and the basics of what's going on superficially in the cannabis industry, but in depth of what's going on with the people in the industry, of how we're making the pillars of the foundation. There is one industry that can save the Colorado economy, as well as the U.S. economy. Like many across the U.S. that live in rural farming towns have known for years that their industry is dying. This is nothing new. We've known this for years. It is now time to do something different, but using the infrastructure already in place. We can bring back the new age of agribusiness 3.0 just in time to bail out so many that are depending on it for their retirement. The fact is, if you're a baby boomer, you were having the same conversation as a kid. Now you're in charge. You're the one. Make it happen. This is just as much as an issue for those retiring as it is for those newly entering the workforce. Seth Godin said it best, the industrial age is over, and we're not in the information age anymore either. Now is the time of the cannabis age, to bring back agribusiness and innovation to the American economy. Money has always been profitable with cannabis. It's time to get involved and show the world how to shift that money from jails, courts, and hospitals to shops, farms, and fabrication, all taxed and positively industrialized. Join me. This is Brainstorm, and I'm a cannapreneur, building a show for like-minded people. Grind and Burn, 2015.
Ragamuffin Rastaman.
Becoming a CCX member is fast, easy, and best of all, free. So sign up at www.cannaexchange.com or call us at 1-800-498-3CCX. Whether you need to sell your surplus, fill your shelves, or you need data, you need CCX.
Hey, you like the businesses you hear? Maybe you're a business just like that. Maybe you have a thought or an idea that would be perfect for this community. Contact me. I'll get you on the air. I want to discuss these issues. Everything in the news, health, legal, food, music, growing technology, business. We talk about it all here. Cannabis Community Project.
Bring some gloves in here.
Are you cold? Really? Do you need to do some push-ups, jumping
That's
jacks?
what I was saying. Is my Southern California, my thinned out blood. I'm from
Noticed
Chicago.
You're wearing
so
like this ski jacket, and I'm in my t-shirt.
I know.
Is there a blizzard
Don't
going
embarrass
on
me.
outside or something?
It's a bit. There's a chill in the air.
Well, we're back with another HR Minute with Scott. Now I'm going to screw this up because we just talked about it, so now I'm thinking about it. Hold on.
You got it.
Hold on.
You got it.
It's with an A, so it's affable.
No.
Affable.
No.
Affable.
It's
God damn
affable.
it. Affable.
Affable.
Oh, like, hey, affable.
There you go. But it's not Italian.
What is it?
It's actually Filipino.
Oh, you're
Spanish
Filipino?
influence. Yeah.
In what part?
My dad's side. So I'm a quarter Filipino.
Which quarter? Where?
Yeah, my dad's dad. He immigrated here.
Really?
in
I would have thought you were like
19
Irish or something.
1948 or 49, I think.
Wow, interesting. So you're Filipino and Spanish.
Nope. Filipino and blonde-eye, blue-eye German.
Oh, really? There
Yeah,
you
that's my grandma was.
go. I'm Dutch, German, and Nicaraguan myself.
there you go.
My dad and my mom from two polar ends of the world.
That's right. Mixes are the best.
Well,
There's
thanks.
hybrids out there.
Well, thanks for coming back, joining us for, I guess, officially titled HR Minute now. Last
Nice.
time we did it, we didn't have a title. We just
didn't.
kind of stumbled through it. So now this is HR Minute. I guess it's your minute. So let me stop blabbing, let you take your minute.
Oh, sure. Thanks for the HR Minute. I'm just out here trying to do what I can to make my business successful. So what I want to talk about today, something I read in the news, who knows where it was from, in terms of dispensaries, and if you are trying to get your product into a dispensary. Aaron Justice, who's the president and CEO of Buds and Roses, which is a Los Angeles very famous collective in Los Angeles. Kyle Cushman, the famous Kyle Cushman, with his strawberry cough strain, was bred and for Buds and Roses. So they've won many cannabis cups. Anyway, so the CEO of Buds and Roses, Aaron Justice, what he said, this was at the in Las Vegas, the Cannabis Business Expo. So there was just a report on what they were saying. This was one of the takeaways. Aaron Justice, president and CEO of Buds and Roses at Los Angeles-based dispensary. He admonished attendees to engage in serious shoe leather research. You can Wikipedia it if you want. Basically, get on the ground, see what's out there, and see if your product can fit a niche. And if you don't have a product, see what niche or something needs to be filled. For instance, Justice said if a cannabis business was interested in persuading Buds and Roses to carry one of the products, he suggested they become a member, shop the store, try the products the dispensary already carries, and find a new niche to fill. So basically, leave the safety of your home and get out there and see what niche needs to be filled, what gap needs to be filled. Thanks again for listening to CCP, first and foremost. And this has been Scott Afable at Highest Reward. You can find me at highestreward.com.
Thanks for giving us another HR Minute, joining us this week. This week we're down at 4 Strains. We're in the hookah lounge area of it, in the back of the store, hanging out with Bubble Sonics also down here.
Antoine from Bubble Sonics.
Giving us some cleanings, some pipe cleanings. That was great, man. I appreciate it. You
Anytime.
got a little insight to what you're going to give us next week?
Yeah, next week, let's talk a little bit about minimum wage and what that looks like and means to everyone out there.
Let's talk about average wage.
Average wage.
Average wage.
Let's talk about average wage.
Antoine from Bubble Sonics, giving his opinion there. Go ahead. You want to join us next week?
Yeah, I think I might join you in that conversation.
All right.
I think people just always talk about the minimum, but if the average don't go up, if you raise the average, the minimum will rise as well.
All right. Well, there you go.
That's compensation 101.
He's going to come back next week and join us down here at 4 Strains back in the hookah lounge, and we'll have a conversation about the average wage or the minimum wage. It depends. Thanks for joining us, Scott. We'll see you next week. Thanks to all of our sponsors, and this week we're highlighting Dairy Berry's Recording Studio. Find him at dairyberriesrecordingstudio.com or call Mark at 303-456-8216.
Hey man, I'm joining a religious cult.
Now that's ridiculous.
Well, I'm joining it, so you gotta sign up too.
I was gonna go sunbathing.
Oh boy.
Look, I'm starting to believe in some of the stuff the cult guy's been saying. Some of it makes a lot of sense.
Join for a little while? I told my dad I'd visit him in Florida in 3 weeks. I mean, I don't really have to believe in this stuff, do I?
No.
The nighttime is the right time. The nighttime is the right time. The nighttime is the right time.
The tools that paved our history seem to be their lies and selfish greed, and selling fear was key to protect an industry, stopping anyone from questioning when all for one means all for one. No room for we in this underworld democracy. All for one means none for all. Can't you see? This hypocrisy belongs to you and me. You and me. You and me. That this fantasy belongs to you and me. And it's so amazing that we hold the key to really need. Living green to win financially, but to expose the truth, conditioned on what we're not to do, to spark a change, accepting something new. All for one means none for all. Can't you see? This hypocrisy belongs to when all for one means all for one.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good.
What do I call you? Do I call you a Guerilla Healer, or what do you prefer to be called by?
My friends call me B. I go by Burnt MD, a microphone doctor. You can look me up. Just Google Burnt MD. I make music. I throw shows. I help people. I have a charity called Guerilla Healer. Facebook made me change my name, so it says Guerilla Healer.
What do you mean they made you change your name from?
Because it used to be Burnt MD, and then it got changed to MD Burnt. And then they asked me to change it. You know, Facebook has their own little regulations and rules.
Because of the MD part?
I don't know why it was. Just I'm happy to change it to Guerilla Healer.
What's the origins of that? Are you a business or an organization or just an individual?
Guerilla Healer is a 501c3 nonprofit charity based out of Colorado. We provide free educational services as well as donate natural care to high-risk, low-income patients with life-threatening ailments.
Okay. So you're making of cannabis and various products to help patients, or the fundraising so they can acquire?
We help people in terms of learning how to help themselves, how to be independent rather than creating dependence, and teaching people how to create their own cannabis oil, how to grow their own medicine, how to find the right doctor, how to find the right outlet for their particular ailment, because everybody's different.
Okay.
We have donations that come into our emergency relief fund, and we distribute to people in need. More often than not, at people kind of at death's door, and sometimes people are looking to raise the quality of the rest of their life, or sometimes more often than not, people want to live. And of course, life is always the right decision. Almost always, I guess you could say.
Right. Hence the name Guerilla Healer in the sense.
Unconventional methods of healing, I guess you could say. It's
exactly.
Conventional medicine, you go into a hospital, whereas Guerilla Healer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a healthcare professional, I work in the field, and I help people. It's plain and simple.
And you're not saying like you're a holistic healer, you're just specifically doing cannabis-related type treatment.
It's really about diet, healthcare, and lifestyle. Cannabis is something that I believe in. The fact is, a lot of people hit me up with cancer. A lot of people hit me up with ailments where cannabis can help, and they've been on a slew of medications that have been ruining their life. Specifically, let's say, for instance, a Lyme's patient who is a mother and daughter, and for 10 years, she could not pretty much get out of bed at all. Using cannabis, she's now doing 32 squats a day, twice. She's putting on her own clothes. She's doing the things that people who can move around, whereas for 10 years, she was not capable by any medications. And so, at that point, you have to, in society's eyes, use unconventional methods, whereas in the eyes of cultures who have been thriving for thousands of years, in the eyes of themselves, I guess, have been relatively healthy. And, it's just a different way of life when their medicine is original and our medicine considers this original to be alternative.
Absolutely. And I found out about you through mutual friends who I believe directly see you or have posted about you. It's an industry that's growing more and more in popularity in the media, the patient side of it. The recreational side is definitely getting its attention, but the patient side is becoming more and more with the amount of families that are coming from other parts of the world to live here specifically because of what you're engaged in. How did you get started?
Well, people died.
Personal friends and family.
Unfortunately, most people get started in this thing when it touches them. And, that's why there's very few politicians behind it. That's why there's very few doctors behind it. That's why there's very few people in general around the world that know about it. At this point, it's the counterculture and slowly becoming into the mainstream. But how? And I've thrown many events where we did not let the media in because we didn't want to have TV showing people having fun. I would rather them come to a patient support group that I conduct, the hospital room where we are having a conversation with the doctors why we need to keep this 4-year-old alive. and not take her off the respirator. Or, in fact, she is not even using the respirator, so why give her medication to let her go on her way out? There's just, when parents have to fight to keep their children alive, when parents are being criminalized for wanting to heal their children, when people are being criminalized for wanting to heal themselves, something has to change.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a story that I think many people can relate to. I can relate to it. My brother in 2009 passed of leukemia, and that was an introduction to where my mom got to directly see his life involved in cannabis. She actually made a turning point, I think, in her life and started to become curious and ask questions about it because of his use and his direct interaction with it. And, she's a 65-year-old woman who's now, considering using it herself for her own medicinal purposes and pains and ailments. So you can really see it taking effect in people's lives. And that's when, true moments happen, is when just regular people start doing something that changes their life. How long have you been doing this?
Well, it's been a steady progression in terms of helping people, in terms of doing this Guerrilla Healer. I started it, I guess, last December or January to kind of fund the work that I was doing. A good friend of mine, DJ A-Dog, passed away last December, and months prior, I was introduced to a scenario where a friend of mine, their family has leukemia, and they were asking for help, and found myself in a position where I was capable of helping, and I couldn't turn away. After donating from my own, I'm a patient, so I grow my own medicine, and once I found out about this and how sick she was, I donated my own medicine, and as much as I could, and kept doing it, and would go around and look for people to donate, rally up the troops so we can save a life. And after a while, it turned into a situation where I hadn't done any business or focused on any finances or in months. And, you're paying bills and you're doing your thing. And I like to call it the great hemorrhage, and it's not fully over. But I'm working my way back towards stability and gaining a balance, and good people are forming around me, and this is really becoming a movement, and it's a beautiful thing because people are getting help. Whereas in the beginning, I was giving help to all sorts of areas, and some people were really taking it and running with it, and some people end up taking advantage, and some people aren't capable of doing much, and there's all sorts of capacities of individuals or commitments out there, but I have trouble turning people down. Of course, people hit me up from all over the country, all over the world, to be honest with you, and I have to say no all the time, and I can't obviously help anybody from inside a prison cell, and I have people now that I help, so I have to make sure that I follow the law. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are getting paid a lot of money to try to put people behind bars, so I have to make sure I don't piss anybody off, and I'm helping people in the right ways. And I'm glad that I'm not a doctor, because I might be regulated too much, like a doctor is, where they can't even do much. So Guerrilla Healer.
That's a great point, and it really sounds like this is a calling that you don't really have a choice in some sense.
How can I turn away? I got a 4-year-old in Children's Hospital 10 minutes away from me. We're trying to keep alive. I got a patient who literally her life has been changed. She was supposed to get a knee replacement surgery. I got people with cancer who are hitting me up feeling better than ever. I got people with non-stop ailments. It's never going to stop. People are always going to be sick until we start addressing the preventative measures. We can't minimize risk.
You're really just a Band-Aid at this point, trying to stop the
trying to
Hoover
stop
Dam.
a volcano, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to get burnt every time, and who better to do it than Burnt FD? It's funny, but poetry has it's a yin and a yang. It's a beautiful yin yang, this thing called life.
Well, it's a beautiful story that really brings true a few quotes in my life that I try to stick to. And one that I've always heard was, help other people get what they want, and you'll always get what you want. And it's just one of those things. Is this your full-time gig now? Is this what you do?
It is. I mean, I have many other ventures that I enjoy, but for the most part, Guerrilla Healer is at the forefront of everything that I've been doing. No matter what I try and do, I make music, and even that has taken a backseat. A chance to get to sit down and express myself now is a blessing in itself. I don't even have time for for that. And so things are growing, and as I said earlier, gaining more of a balance. And I think that life is basically a series of baby steps. As we become enlightened, we're capable of evolving, progressing, and making those necessary adjustments to get bigger and better.
Well, I'm glad you're able to see at least a clear path of where you can take yourself in this journey and what's possibly there to be journeyed, to be experienced. A lot of people may turn away from it. You know, I'm sure a lot of people would look at the challenge and the stress and the problems of the world, as you say, that are almost not curable on any form, and just turn their back and go back to whatever they were doing before. You know, I'm sure Jesus just wanted to be a carpenter and build stuff, but eventually, eventually your community pushes you to the point where it's got to be a full-time thing, sometimes something else. Maybe this is a good thing, right? You know, the good that comes from the bad.
I have an album that is being mixed, and it's produced by the Grim Reapers. They're on Jedi Mind Tricks label. They're out in France. And the album's called Only Love Can Kill the Demon, and I have a song called Journey to the Center of the Earth, and it's about going to hell and back. And I used to have this little quote. I said, "I'll dance with the devil to let the angels fly. From a burnt forest comes lush growth." There has to be at some point somebody who's willing to touch the flame to pull out the burning baby, essentially, or pull out the coal that you can get that diamond from. I mean, obviously that's a little less less morbid than pulling out a burning baby. But anyway, you get my drift. There's nothing else. When I was 18, I had an epiphany, and I'm not too ashamed to say it. I was on LSD, and I looked in the mirror. I got bugged out. My face kind of turned into my father's face, and that kind of bugged me out even more. And me and my father didn't really always have the greatest relationship, plus he wasn't around a lot. And he was a doctor, and so, he helped people. And so basically he was going to medical school. My mother was at Woodstock. So out came this, and my mother's a teacher now. So out came this like teaching healer, this burnt MD. And I kind of realized at that point, because I was a depressed kid, I didn't even give a fuck about myself, let alone most other things. And for all intents and purposes, I wanted to die. I wasn't happy with life. And at this point, when this happened, I realized I really was here to help people. And my progression began from then. I'm 33 now. It's taken a beautiful, I don't even want to say turn, because the MD came. I mean, that was part of the journey too. I started writing all these. I've been a writer since I was 14, but I would write all these songs or these pieces and read them after. I didn't even know what I was writing. I'd sit down, I'd write these like Save the World themed pieces, and meanwhile I wasn't walking around talking Save the World, but it just came out. I was being this messenger, and I'd read it after and be like, oh wow. And seriously, that's how it happened. And all of a sudden, these kind of manifestations have been happening from all the people that I've worked with in the music industry, from Black Thought of the Roots to Wu-Tang to all these people that just have always influenced me when I was listening to as a kid, and be like, wow, one day, this and that, whatever. And, you just picture things and you live things and, you do the right things and beautiful things can happen. Maybe not to everybody, but you never know if you don't do it. There's no trying, there's only doing. And being put in these positions, I can't walk away. I was blessed with the opportunity for somebody to say, hey, B, I need help. Can you help me? And I was blessed with the opportunity to somebody to say, yo, B, people that are sick, right? I got medicine. You want to help them? And I'm like, what? And, that's it.
Well,
life begins.
How do you multiply yourself into an organization? How do you take all that passion and knowledge and desire of an individual and make it into an organization?
Well, that's luck, because preparation plus opportunity, and I've been, I haven't. It's an associate's in business, so it's something. It's not much, but I did it, and I stopped going to college when I started to throw shows. So I went back when I just wanted to, finish the associate's degree. Nevertheless, I've been a hustler. I was freaking 6 years old selling baseball cards on the beach. I just basically had to turn into this or turn this thing that I've created where it's literally. I don't necessarily believe in monetizing emergency health. I just don't. Everybody's going to need it, unless somebody can present a logical explanation why we need to monetize emergency health. I feel as though that's redundant. It just makes it harder for everyone. So taking that and utilizing my business skills and tools has been a tough thing to mix the two. It's a sacred thing that I'm doing. I really believe this. And so I'm protecting it. The evolution is happening as it's supposed to, and the right people are coming around, and I feel more comfortable with certain things, and I'm already an event coordinator, so we're going to be doing other events focused around the charity and how to raise educational awareness, and I have ideas of doing these educational tours with entertainment, and I've already spoken to a bunch of famous artists, and I have a catering company called the Kush Kitchen and Reveille Entertainment Reveille Catering that they are very integral part of serving amazing food and healing with GMO-free organic food. We throw a lot of events with that, as well as healing art and speeches. I have some doctors and patients that want to come out, so it's going to be a beautiful thing. Hopefully, it's going to be enticing for people to want to come be a part of, because this is truly the health renaissance.
Right, and you have so many different businesses and different activities going. How do you actually maintain a consistent focus to move forward and not get lost in all these activities where nothing moves forward or progresses forward?
That's just me. How do you ask Millipede how he moves all his legs? When I was in school, they said I had ADD. They said I got a unsatisfactory in this and an F in that or whatever. I could do a million things, and I need help. And for my own personal causes, it's tough for me to ask for help. But for other people, I don't mind. Mm-hmm. And I don't mind helping other people. I don't mind stopping what I'm doing to help other people. And if more people were like that, it'd be easier for all of us. It's likely that a lot of that didn't happen for me, so I give back what I want. That's okay.
What balance do you have to put towards the basic infrastructure of maintaining the business, the boring stuff, and what percentage towards the making of medicine and meeting patients and doing the activities and the events? What is the balance ratio there?
There's just priorities, and patients come first. I also have this motto, patients over profits. So ultimately, as the charity, consistency solidifies. So as I keep doing this, it's going to present, new opportunities present themselves that you have to, that you encounter and have kill, if you will, and do well at and own. So a lot of people hit me up that do have money, that are capable of helping themselves in terms of financially, and they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Look at all these dispensaries that don't carry oil. I have been helping low-income people for so long. So this has presented another opportunity for itself where people want to hire me to be a consultant to teach them how to help themselves and teach them what I know. This is something that, how could I turn it down? When somebody wants to help me move along, it's all paying it forward. And I forgot about paying my own way because I was helping everybody else. And so all of a sudden I become a cannabis health consultant. All of a sudden I become a cannabis event coordinator or aside from I've thrown hip hop shows and reggae shows and poetry shows and all sorts of stuff. So it's just moving with the wind,
Well, what was your dream before all this came about?
When I was a kid, my dream was to move to an island and be happy. And maybe one day I'll be able to, my dream now, if you go to GorillaHealer.org, you'll be able to see, it says the mission is to create a sacred healing retreat where it's essentially a residential facility on a sliding scale, so we can scholarship people that can't afford it, and the people that can, they will pay for it, and it'll be a successful venture and be self-sustaining. I have so many different people that want to help build hemp houses. I have a project called Seeds to Stone. I'm going to be working on creating a campaign to get enough property to where we can have a field and grow the hemp that builds the houses that we need to create this retreat. And that's my vision. So you're the first person I told it to publicly.
Well, I'm honored. That's an awesome vision. I mean, quite frankly, that's a whole lifestyle of a world.
And it involves a lot of people.
Yeah.
My friend Jason Love, who I'd love to build the what I call the hemp educational learning program, which is going to be a hempcrete building, a hemp educational learning center, essentially, where interactive learning, and we could take school trips too, and that'll kind of be at the front of the compound, if you will. I have a gentleman overseas in Africa named Tony Budden, a great guy who builds hemp houses out there for low-income people, and he's excited to be a part of this project if we can make it happen. And I have my friend Nick T, who does a lot of great work in the medicine world, would love to help however he can. All these people are just excited to help people, and that's all we want to do. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I just want to dial it in a little bit because, from last night being poisoned at a restaurant to the hospital trying to protect this little girl, everywhere we go in every area of life, there's risk. And if we can minimize risk, then we can create a happier existence for people.
Absolutely.
And not everybody cares about that, but there's certain people that need it.
Yeah.
So if I can create a community or a village, if you will, where people can be healthy and self-sustainable, we have living soil, no-till, so we don't have to do all that work every year. It does it for itself. We have all this, technology that we can use to simplify things, not complicated. That's what I'm interested in, creating timeless pieces of energy so that when we're gone, this could be a better place.
That sounds like a great place. Let me throw my 2 cents in and say it shouldn't be called a compound because nothing with the word compound in it ends up as a good ending in history. So maybe like a farm or a Disneyland.
Yeah, the sacred retreat is kind of what I like to say. I guess compound kind of came in as but yes, I agree.
I think anytime compound's used, the NSA immediately flags it and the FBI gets called out.
Welcome to the fort. We shall protect you.
And once you start building a moat, having people building a moat around you.
Wanted a moat, I'm not going to lie.
Well, I mean, there's a fine line between wanting to create a community to save the world and one to take over the world.
No, absolutely. I have no desire for power. I am powerless, and I find that out more and more every day.
I love it. I mean, there's been no industry or people I've talked to more other than the cannabis industry where I've heard more stories of people wanting to kind of create these societies and these utopias, and more people talk about it in this industry than I think anywhere else. And that's kind of an overall, I think, the way the whole concept of the cannabis community thinks as a whole is looking for a better society. There's got to be a better way is a common phrase I like to use.
We're looking for a better way.
Yeah.
That's why we sing. That's why we're to feel good. Why walk around in Babylon when we could create heaven right here on earth? It's already, you go into nature and it's beautiful. Of course, there's things dying and there's things being born and there's things being killed and there's things being torn and ripped and eaten and excreted. But that's life. That's the balance. And somebody said to me today, crying to me, my grandma's dying. Why is this happening? Why would God do this? And I said, yo, brother. And, nobody would expect somebody, to laugh at them when they say this. But I said, bro, we all have an expiration date. What makes it tough is when you see that stamp on that carton of milk and you're like, oh, it's getting close. And when it's your grandmother, it's a whole lot different. So it hits home.
Right.
And, when a doctor says you're going to do this, I mean, this little girl, 2 weeks ago, they said she's going to die. She's past that date, doing much better. So there's so many parents, so many people with all these stories of you're supposed to be dead. And who determines that?
Right.
If I tell somebody you have a high risk of fatality if you do this, that's way different than go prepare for your death. Because there are things that you can do to make your life better. And we're all going to die.
Right.
We don't get to choose when we do. All we can do is everything we can in the meantime to be as happy and healthy as possible. And, of course, the focus in America is instant gratification. And that doesn't always, most of the time, doesn't equal health.
Right.
People are very happy spending $1 at the dollar menu. And going on their merry way, whether or not it gives them the bubble guts, whether or not it gives them zits, whether or not it makes you have to get dentist bills or hospital bills because you're unhealthy. People aren't thinking ahead. We got to come at life like chess rather than it's not a video game.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things. I mean, if you listen to other podcasts like Joe Rogan, he talks about it a lot, kind of the building the community, getting all the assholes out and just starting over in a sense, starting over with that, who are cool, who are going to make life better.
We all have an asshole. We're all gonna shit. So what the fuck do we do? I mean, literally, I've been, at certain intervals trying not to curse, but this is the truth in the mirror's eyes. When you're looking at it, we all have to deal with shit. So what can we do to be happy? Well, look at all the societies that were so unhealthy. Look at why the white civilization was poisoning all these other civilizations. The main reason? Sanitation. These other cultures have figured out how to be clean. And these other people just didn't. They were building cities, and they were farming, and they were having grains and being less healthy, and they were having buildings with mold, and they weren't in the woods where mold is all around us. But if you're healthy, it's not going to grow on you. So ultimately, it's healthy societies versus I don't even want to call it greedy. Instant gratification. You know, that's really just what it's about. It's you fall victim to it, and you become an oppressor of some sort in some capacity, whether or not it's to an ant or to yourself.
That's in part a little bit of, Jared Diamond.
No, never heard of him.
On Netflix, he has a National Geographic. It's called Guns, Germs, and Steel, where he does, he's an anthropologist or some type of scientist, exploring the origins of mankind and why he was in New Zealand or Papua New Guinea.
Okay.
And he was asked a question by one of the natives there. He said, why do you, in the sense of your culture, your people, have so much and we have so little? And it's a 3-part series of this 20-year study he did, and what it came down to was basically guns, germs, and steel. The kind of geography determining what we have access to of the food and the tools we can make and the germs and how we adapt to those germs and diseases and everything else kind of playing hand in hand that, it came down to guns, germs, and steel. I don't know. It's just, it was a very interesting.
The reason why I laughed when you said that is because look at it. When you're coming from a place where you have everything, when you're one with your environment, that usually happens in nature. So you come from a place where you have the food you need. You're part of the
ecosystem.
Exactly. Thank you. And so going to a place where these civilizations feel as though they have these things, and they feel, you look at an average American who has all these things. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff, and some other people will be like, why do you have all this stuff? And ultimately, these people don't really have anything. What do we have? Is it knowledge? Or is it material? Because you're only buried with material. I don't know if we're buried with knowledge or not. I don't know if anybody's going to know that until they die. Having is really relative.
Well, when all your knowledge can be downloaded onto an SD chip, then you can be buried with all your knowledge. Well, in a sense, you can, because just like, when Tesla died, all of his knowledge in the physical, tangible form was scooped up and confiscated and disappeared in a sense. So there's actual knowledge that's been suppressed in the world, knowledge that's that used to exist and now doesn't exist because...
Or changed. History gets changed most often. The history books in school I read called the Native American savages. To me, that's insane. The fact that I remember that is insane, but, it's...
That you remember something from school? That's the way I feel, too. It's like, where did I learn that?
Well, I took a boatload of Benadryl last night after nearly getting poisoned in this restaurant, so today I've just been recovering and dabbing this CBD, so the fact that I remember anything right now is a miracle.
Well, I was going to ask, do you think your overall philosophy attitude is part of your healing power? And when I say healing power, I'm not talking about just isolating specific medicine that's being produced. I'm talking about the overall experience that even if we took that same medicine and somebody else gave it to a patient, do you think it would still have the same effect versus coming from you, who's obviously an individual that has a unique kind of aura about you where you might be a healer in many sense of the way?
Well, I implore people to taste what I feel, and if they don't want to continue, that's on them. And I don't scold anyone. We all have to live with ourselves, and however you do that, as happiest as you will be, you will do. And what can I do? But I'm merely under the sun, the same as all of us here, and we all have the same power to put a pot of boiling water on the stove and, purge your tincture, soak some material and alcohol and strain it and cook it down to an oil. Heal ailments. Alchemy is for everyone. If you can't do it, then I'm here for you, or somebody else is, or we'll teach them how to do it.
One of my favorite books is actually The Alchemist. If
Of course,
you've
it's
ever
a
read
great
it. Yeah, and it's, I mean, in all respects, the metaphorical and the literal sense.
You
of
talk
the
about
book.
The Alchemist, I'm gonna take a dip.
Well, speaking of dabbing and medicine and concentrates, give me a little idea to what exactly we're talking about, because everybody I talk to has their own way of consuming medicine. Some people do edibles, some people do concentrates, some people do the oil under the tongue, every morning. Some people just smoke. Talk to me a little bit about the actual medicinal part of consuming cannabis. Educate me a little bit on a medicinal way to consume.
I'm glad you said that, because there is a huge misconception between medicinal marijuana and recreational marijuana. They're both the same thing. Now, if you want to use it for a medicinal purpose, boom. If you want to use it for a recreational purpose, I guess that would be called, having fun. Now, me, I'm a patient, therefore I use it for specific ailments. I use cannabis oil only recently, because for the most part I was only giving it to people that needed it, and I always felt weird about doing anything having anything, it wasn't for me. And mind you, I need it. It's been apparent my whole life. I recently got a tumor cut out. I have an inflammatory disease. I can go on and on. Nevertheless, so I use oil. I also smoke, and I used to smoke blunts. And dabbing concentrates basically saved me, saved everybody around me, saved my dog, because it was an obnoxious amount of cigars I'd be smoking constantly, and it stunk. The cigar, or you smoke a joint, it stinks like paper. You're smoking flour, it stinks like flour. You smoking concentrates, it just smells pleasant, and then it goes away. And you don't even smoke as much. So dabbing a few times throughout the day is way different than anything else. So for me, that's positive, as well as the fact that it helps me if I get nauseous. It helps me if I need to sleep, or if I need to get more awake. I don't like coffee. I don't really like caffeine. Green tea is great, but it's caffeinated. Now I'm on this probiotic diet. I'm eating healthy protein. I'm on my sativas in the morning, my hybrids during the day, my indicas at night if I get up my hands on them. And my garden, I'm dialing in all the different things that I need. I want plants that are really terpy. Terpenes are the essence, the aroma of pretty much anything living. Something that has a strong, smell. It basically is the key to the blood-brain barrier, which enables the medicine to surpass and do its work, essentially. So that's why these plants that are so aromatic, let's say sage or holy basil or cannabis, have the ability to be so have so many medicinal properties, because I believe these terpenes are working together. So the concentrates basically extracts the terpenes and the cannabinoids, whereas in the flowers you have all these other materials in it or particles in it that it just, to me now, it tastes like incense, and I've always loved herb, and it's just different now. I've had a patient who was shaking, convulsing on the floor, throwing up from a tumor inside, who took a couple dabs, walking around smiling. Dabs can be very medicinal. In terms of smoking, especially flower, I think that the greatest recommendation is vaporizing. A volcano is a good way to do that. If somebody has the money to get a good vaporizer, it's the healthiest form of smoke, if you will, on your throat. Eating it in terms of cooking with brownies or something like that, how it mixes in the fats. You could homogenize it with coconut oil and administer it sublingually, which is basically rubbing it in your gums, and feel it almost immediately. Whereas you can cook it in with butter and sugar and stuff, and it'll hit you hard about a half hour, an hour later.
That's interesting.
There's just different ways to do different things. And, especially, if somebody says, hey, I want to treat cancer, so I'm going to take these oil capsules. And I say, okay, well, is your medicine been thermally activated or decarboxylated? Because if it hasn't, you have to swallow the cannabis oil in order for it to go through your body and be activated. If it has been decarboxylated or thermally activated, basically put over heat, then it's a viable, ready medicine. So it's active, essentially, and you could administer it sublingually sublingually and rub it in your gums, whereas somebody who's having a seizure, you put a little oil in their gums and boom, the seizure begins to stop. And how does this happen? One might ask, why does cannabis have the ability to work? Does it work for this? Hey, does it work for that? Hey, does it work for this? Hey, does it work for that? And, people are asking these questions all day. And it all boils down to one thing, our endocannabinoid system. And our endocannabinoid system is such an important function. It regulates our immuno and our neurological systems, right? So basically, we have different receptors, and the different cannabinoids stimulate the different receptors, which enable the cells to communicate. So if each cell is capable of interacting with each other, therefore the body is all of a sudden has the ability to address an ailment, to address a sickness, to address a disease. And if there's no communication, then there's not going to be any progress. So communication is always the key to success. So the endocannabinoid system is essentially the body's internet, as I like to explain it. So if somebody wants to know, will cannabis work for me? If you have an endocannabinoid deficiency, the indications for that are, some sort of ailment, whereas your body is not addressing it. That means there's some sort of communication issue. It may or may not be capable of being addressed with cannabis. Nobody knows unless you try it. And if somebody guarantees it to you, well, then they're a liar.
Wow. I think that was the fastest amount of time, the most amount of words have been said that actually were clear enough to be understood throughout the whole thing and made sense. That was a fast micro rant.
Well, you heard it here first. Cannabis Community Project.
That's great, man. You got a lot to say. I mean, we could obviously go on all night about every little subject, but I think this was a good start. You really gave us some good information and some good conversation. We should come back and do it again in a few weeks. Matter of fact, you got a lot of knowledge about cooking. I've been thinking about starting a secondary show based around cooking cannabis products while having some type of topic-based conversation podcast.
I have a company called the Kush Kitchen, and I've put out a video on how to make cannabis oil. It's called the Kush Kitchen, and I'm interested in expanding it in other ways as well. That we've already done different events and such, and I want to do different shows and. Whether or not that could be involved in your idea, that's something to discuss maybe further down the road as well. But, anything that's a way to work with people who are, competent and capable, dedicated, that's good because there's not enough of us. I always said I got a small chain because I only got a few strong links. And, my chain grows. I have people all around the world, but, you got to keep it tight. You know what I'm saying? And keep it strong. So, I see you doing your thing. I didn't know you before you hit me up. This is one of the greatest interviews I've ever done, strictly because of the conversation that we had, the questions that you asked. You stimulated me to be able to give you the responses. So many interviews, people are asking me these bullshit ass questions. And I'm just like, my last interview, I said, this is what you wrote down. They literally prepared and like the most generic, and I was like, I don't know what kind of interview you expect to stimulate people with, but
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Much love. Feel free to hit me up. And your boy Paul is definitely feeling a little better these days. Of course, nothing's perfect, but we're getting him set too. It's just,
I was going to do a little interview with him, and he got really sick last week. I met him at the CBD for All event. There's a little event where he did a little speech at, and I recorded him. And he was one of the reasons why I thought about doing this secondary show. Was going to be with patients, and why we were talking to patients. Like for 20 or 30 minutes, there was going to be food being prepared that was all going to be cannabis infused. So the show was going to be called Waiting to Eat. For that 20, 40 minute time frame of preparing the cannabis infused food, we would have a topic based conversation with a patient every week. And then every week would be a new patient and like a new dish. So we would do two things at the same time, talk to patients and hear their story. And then once we're done with their story, then the food's made. Then we would eat the food and talk about what we were eating in the cannabis food and kind of end it on a lighter note, because patient stories are probably going to be a little heavy. So we would end the show on a lighter note by kind of, that was your story, here's the food, let's eat, and then fade it out with some music or something.
First of all, I'm excited about that idea. Second of all, let me say that I have a great way to contribute to that and make it wrap it up nice and tight as a package in terms of adding another element to the dynamic that you have imagined. I think that you would be really interested in it. So we should talk about this again. Please,
okay.
Let's meet up sometime or have another conversation. And
yeah,
I need to I'm always happy to meet people who want to do similar things, and we can spread the same type of awareness. And I always have my own ideas, but I could be as objective as subjective. Organic is always the best.
Let's meet up at the beginning of the year. Let's get through Christmas and New Year's, and then right after
Sounds
the
like a
beginning of the year.
plan. If anybody wants to get in touch with Guerrilla Healer, you can email us at help. That's HELP at guerrillahealer.org. That's GUERILLAHEALER.org. Help at guerrillahealer.org. Or, of course, you can always hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/guerrillahealer. We're also on Instagram, Guerrilla Healer, and on Twitter. So remember, that's GUERILLA Healer.
Excellent, man. Hey, that was great. It was, thanks for your time. Excellent.
My man.
All right, man.
Happy holidays.
Be
Thank
safe.
you for thinking of me.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to this week's show. Make sure to come back next week. We're going to have more guests lined up, speaking with dispensary owners, growers, business owners. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media, Facebook, Google+. You can listen to our shows live from the website or your preferred listening platform. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spreaker, even YouTube, all under the same name, CannabisCommunityProject.com. We'll see you next week.
Come on!